In the studio today, we have Emmanuel Acho. He is a retired NFL player and a best-selling author and host of Uncomfortable Conversations, which has won an Emmy, and he's here in the flesh, and I'm so excited.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm okay. Today's a tough day,
Yeah.
but I'm okay.
I feel like every day has been tough in the Jewish community the last, I couldn't even count it. I don't even know how y'all are sustaining at this point in time.
I don't know, but it's people like you who help us. I mean, you sit with us and you talk to us and you help your community understand our community. And most people haven't been doing that. So thank you for being an ally.
Of course.
And thank you for coming at it with so much empathy and love. And I want to talk to you about that, Emmanuel, because as a Jewish mom, watching what's happening on college campuses, watching so many of the people who I thought were my friends no longer are my friends, you start to lose that empathy. And I want to instill that in my children. And as moms, we want to always come from a place of love. It's not always so easy, but you seem to always come from a place of love and empathy, even though your own community feels so much of the hate.
Yeah, I'm very solution oriented. And what I've realized is even in the midst of my pain, if I want to find healing, then I have to lead with healing. If I want to find love, I have to lead with love. If I want to find unity, I have to lead with unity. And so I believe that oftentimes we may have to be self-sacrificial for the greater good of the community. I think of it, and you're a mom, so I'm sure you've dealt with this a ton, group projects. And I would tell people all the time, remember in class when you had a group project and somebody wasn't doing the work, you had options. Okay, you had the option. Your options were this: either you don't atone for their work and you just got to see collectively on the group project, or you do extra work. You make up for where they slacked. You do extra work for the greater good of the group. And I think that's where we are in society. I think the Jewish community has to do extra work at this point in time. They have to do extra explaining. They have to have extra grace. They have to have extra empathy. They have to have extra love. They have to have extra mercy. They can choose not to. But if they choose not to, then we will collectively fail this group project of life. So it's not as necessarily that it is imperative that the Jewish community exude all of this extra. Just understand the collective repercussions because people have let the Jewish community down. Just like in this figurative group project, people let you down. So for me, I understand, hey, you just got to do extra work. I'm a team sport player, though. Like you said, I played in the National Football League for 4 years. So my life is predicated upon team. And sometimes I got to do more.
You're always doing more. It's incredible watching you. You're always doing more. I mean, you wrote a book with Noah Tishby. I mean, talk about doing more. You put yourself out there. How was that received for you?
Great question. It was highs and lows. You know, I was accosted, if you will, at a restaurant in North Hollywood. I was leaving like Burbank and someone stopped me and said, "I hope they paid you well." And I was like, who is they? They said, "You know who they are." I said, "Who is they?" She looked at me. She said, "Zionists." I said, "I lead with love, with peace, with unity, and with empathy." I said, "What is your name?" I asked her name in efforts to diffuse the situation. And she said, "You don't deserve my name." I said, "Well, this conversation's done." And I left the restaurant. And so the book writing process with Noah was very eye-opening for me. Again, I love learning about different people, different colors, different cultures. What breaks another person's heart? Because when I know what breaks your heart, I can help know what to do to heal it. And that was my favorite part about writing that book. And lastly, I will suggest that not that people read the book. I will suggest that people sit down with people that don't look like them for the greater good of themselves.
That's the key. You talk a lot about your faith. Talk about your faith, how it drives you. You can tell it's just who you are. You're grounded. Your father, your mother. You know, your Nigerian American background. I'm an Iranian American. There's so much that we have in common, and you always talk about let's focus on that. Let's focus on what we have in common, rather than what we don't have in common. And in a world right now where we're so separated, I can see every day that you're working to bridge that gap and to bring people together. But when you come from such a strong faith, how do you not let that kind of deter you from having conversations with people who might really have a different ideology?
Because faith has been perverted in society. Faith has been perverted in society. What I mean by that is religion is man-made. Relationship is innate. So I don't necessarily ask an individual, "Hey, what is your religion?" I more so care about your relationship. I am a Jesus follower. I'm a Christian, son of a pastor. But I don't ever ask anybody, hey, are you Christian? I simply ask, what's your relationship to Jesus? And so I don't care, and nor do I use my religion to weaponize. I don't use it as a weapon. I look at relationship. And so oftentimes when I'm looking at chaos in society, whether it was the turmoil of the Roe versus Wade overturning, I simply ask myself, Sharon, where would Jesus be? That's what I ask myself consciously. When I look at Israel and Palestine and the conflict in the Middle East, I say, where would Jesus be? When on any issue, that's truly what I ask myself. So often people get loud and rambunctious and no, you have to outlaw this. No, you must outlaw that. No, but I'm like, I don't think that's where he would be. And so oftentimes I don't speak in Christianese because people can't necessarily hear it. Christianese simply being so overly spiritual that nobody can hear you. Right. I don't like to be so heavenly minded that I'm no earthly good. But I am cognizant of relationship more so than religion. And I think that's what helps me in this day and age.
100%. That's what everything is all about. You'd be a great pastor, by the way. I mean, just the way you speak and the way you...
I will never get behind the pulpit. Ever. A person told me one time, I had a conversation with them. They were a pastor, and they told me after when the cameras were wrapped, they said, never get behind a pulpit. They said, your platform is your pulpit. And people don't realize half the time I am just trying to disseminate messages of love, of healing, of unity, which is primarily what you find in the first 13 books or in the Bible, whatever you subscribe to. Love, peace, healing, unity.
Right, right. When you talk about love, peace, healing, unity, you also talk about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that is really tough. That's been really tough for the Jewish community. I mean, we're about to hit the anniversary of October 7th.
Yeah.
And that forgiveness is the hard part. What's your advice to my community on forgiveness?
Take out your pens, your notepads, or if you have a great memory, just commit this to memory. I heard something I'm about to say and it changed my life. Two types of forgiveness. There is transactional forgiveness and there's unilateral forgiveness. Transactional forgiveness, someone wrongs you, they apologize. Hey, I forgive you. It's fine. They apologize. You forgive them. That's transactional forgiveness. That's the one we see most often. But unilateral forgiveness, it might be most important because unilateral forgiveness, it is what occurs when someone doesn't apologize, but you have to forgive them either way. And the reason that unilateral forgiveness is so urgently necessary is because you unilaterally forgive someone for you, not for them. Because sins committed that go unforgived, they will erode you like bitterness. If you don't unilaterally forgive, then what happens to the person who wrongs you but they die? What happens to the father or the mother who abandoned you? What happens to the spouse who disappears on you? If they never forgive, if they never apologize, and you don't know how to unilaterally forgive, it's only like an anchor tethering you to the bottom of a sea. So my advice would be understand that forgiveness is not to release them. It is to release you. Forgiveness does not excuse the wrongdoing, but it helps release you from the pain of the past. So that's what I would suggest is learn to forgive, not for anyone else, but for yourself.
Wow. I told you you'd be a great pastor. That was beautiful. That's so true. So it's like as dark as the days are, if we don't forgive, we're just hurting ourselves. It's so true.
That's it. And the sooner we learn that truth, the sooner we can all move closer to healing. I think so often, like, I don't want to forgive them, as if you're punishing them. Right. I ain't forgive. You're not worth my forgiveness. You only hurting yourself. People might not even realize they've wronged you. In society, I've realized there's so many crimes that are committed and people are ignorant of them. Mm-hmm. I would often say, like, we throw the word racist around very loosely. I believe we throw the word anti-Semitic around very loosely. I think sometimes people are racially ignorant. I think they're racially insensitive, but I can't just overtly call someone racist. I would suggest sometimes people may be anti-Semitically ignorant. They might be, anti-Semitically unconscious, but I think we throw words around so loosely. And so we have to learn how to forgive because sometimes the intention wasn't to hurt.
So true. So true. Wow. Emmanuel, tell me what your objective is with the show that you're doing, because that's how I found you. I saw you. I saw a clip of you on Instagram. I fell in love with what you were saying, what you stand for. I mean, the whole world should be watching what you're doing. What's the objective at the end of the day?
So, one, I'm glad you said the word objective. I love that word. I will tell it to you in story form. After I started Uncomfortable Conversations with Emmanuel Acho, it was in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And I realized I'd been immersed in black communities because I grew up going to church in the hood. But I was immersed in white community because I went to this super nerdy private school, all boys school. We wore a uniform. I was a nerd, by the way, for all the listeners. No swag whatsoever. I realized, you know what? Maybe I can help reconcile the divide. So I started Uncomfortable Conversations with Emmanuel Acho. 5 days later, I get a call from a no caller ID number. It's a true story. I pick it up. Acho, McConaughey speaking. I want to have a conversation. I was like, McConaughey? Like Matthew McConaughey? Like Academy Award winner McConaughey? So he says, yeah, I want to sit down with you. I sit down with him to have a conversation. 5 days later, I get another no caller ID number. Hi, Emmanuel. Oprah Winfrey speaking. I said, Oprah? Like Oprah? My voice gets high when I talk to famous people. Oprah? She's like, yeah, I want to sit down with you to have a FaceTime call later. She's like, are you free? I said, am I free? Are you free? So I call Oprah. That's always weird to me. But anyway, so I call Oprah. I call her on FaceTime. And she picks up and she asks me one question. And this will answer your question. Long story short. She says, Emmanuel, what is your intention? I said, Oprah, my intention is to change the world, and I truly believe I can. I'm currently working on writing a book. She said, books? I love books. And that is how Uncomfortable Conversations, the books, were born. My intention is to change the world. And my intention is to change the world through conversation. My intention is to change the world through empathy. My intention is to change the world through dialogue. I think that America, which is where we currently sit right now, it made a mistake when it outlawed segregation. It shouldn't have outlawed segregation. It should have done this. It should have mandated integration. And there's a difference. When you outlaw segregation, I tell people, it's like taking a word and putting it in parentheses. A word you put in parentheses, you still say, you just don't say it out loud. And so now when you read those signs, no Jews allowed, you still read it in your heart. You just don't verbalize it out loud. And so rather than outlawing segregation, we should have mandated integration. That's fine. We didn't do that. Then mandate integration in your own life. That's what I would suggest to everybody listening, to all the moms out there, all the sisters, all the daughters, all the husbands, all the fathers, all the whoever the case may be. Mandate integration in your own life. More is caught than is taught. So if you're telling your daughter or your son, hey, make sure you're nice to all the black and brown boys and girls at school. Make sure you're nice to all the Jewish boys and girls at school. When's the last time you had a black family over for dinner? When's the last time you had a Jewish family over for dinner? When's the last time you had a non-Jewish family over for dinner? More is caught than is taught. And so my intention is to change the world and to do it through conversation and being an example of what I want to see.
Wow. You are pure light. You are an example for that. Thank you for doing what you're doing, Emmanuel. Thank you for taking the time to come in. I know you're super busy, and it meant so much to me that you came and had this conversation with me. The fact that you did that just shows your humility and the fact that you really do want to change the world. Thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you.
Really amazing. Everybody, you saw it right here on Moms Matter. Emmanuel Acho. Follow him if you don't. He really is changing the world, and you can do the same if you speak up and just invite that family who you wouldn't over for dinner and have these conversations that might be difficult, but they will change the world. And we'll see you right next time here on Moms Matter.